Hi everybody, it's Miss Moran, and I'm going to be talking to you about multiplicative comparisons, which is what we're going to spend the next 2 weeks on. For this week, we're going to learn the difference between grouping and comparison problems. Most of what we've done so far this year and in 3rd grade has been grouping problems. So here's an example of one of those and how we have modeled and written number sentences for them. Maggie has 5 baskets. There are 3 apples in each basket. How many apples does Maggie have? So we would take circles to stand for our groups. In this case, our 5 baskets is going to be 5 groups. And in each one is going to be 3 things in each group. So 3 apples in each one of our groups. We want students to be able to model the picture correctly, drawing the correct number of groups and the correct number of things in a group. And then to be able to write a number sentence. We would say 5 times 3 equals, and then this is what we would be trying to find, our product. We would skip count this or show that we understand it's repeated addition. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, or 5 groups of 3 equals 15. If we were to write this out in words, we would write 5. Think of our multiplication symbol as the word groups of 3 equals 15. Okay, so this is what students have been used to doing. We've done it all year long, and again, they're used to doing this from 3rd grade. But we're also going to learn that there's a more algebraic way to see some of these types of problems. And these are going to be what we call comparison problems, where we look at the value of 2 different quantities, and we say that one is a certain times the size of another. So here's an example of that. John scored 5 points in his basketball game. Travis scored 3 times as many points as John. How many points did Travis score? So in this case, we're not setting up a picture that looks like this because we really don't have 5 groups with 3 things in each group. In this case, we have 2 different quantities, so we're going to label our work here. One of these is going to be for John, and the other is going to be for Travis. Okay, it's important for us to understand what information we have from the problem and how it relates to John and Travis. So it says John scored 5 points in his basketball game, so that's a given. We know John has 5. So I'm going to put 5 next to John, and I'm going to put a little box here to stand for his value, and that's his total value. Travis has 3 times as many. So I'm going to use that same box and make it 3 times as long. In each one is going to be that same number I used for John, so 5, 5, and 5. Okay, so this seems pretty simple. A lot of students might think, why do I have to bother drawing these boxes? I see 5 and the word times and 3, and I'll just do 5 times 3. But what we're going to learn next week is that sometimes you will be given this larger quantity and be looking for the smaller quantity. And sometimes you don't want to just take that large number and end up multiplying it. So this is going to really help us next week to understand how we can use inverse operations and division on these same types of problems where it doesn't come out and say do division, it just uses the word times. Another problem we'll be working with next week will give us both of these quantities and ask us how many times as large one is than the other. So I'll show you how to do those models for next week, but for this week I want us to understand the difference between grouping and comparison problems, how to model them, and we're also going to need to write number sentences for them. And this is where we're going to start to get into algebra a little bit too. So we're going to want our number sentence to be 3 times 5 equals 15. We're going to be using a box to stand for that unknown. We're also going to be using algebra and letters or variables as well. We can also do this the other way around. 15 is equal to 3 times 5. Again, this is an algebra thing that sometimes makes students a little uncomfortable seeing that total value come first, but we want them to see that and be comfortable whether this value is here or whether it starts out the sentence. We would also like them to be able to put into words instead of saying groups of, like we've been used to doing over here. We would say 3 times as many as 5 is 15. So there's a couple of things that we would look for here. We've got our 3 times as many as 5. That all seems pretty obvious here, but this is, whenever we see is, we're going to use that whenever we're going to place that with the word equal. We'll think of that as is. We can also flip this around and do it the other way. So we would do 15 is 3 times as many as 5. Okay? A few more examples of those, and I'll show you those here. So we want to be able to take this and put this into words. So we could say 6 times as many as 4 is 24. This is the same thing, just flipped around the other way. 24 is 6 times as many as 4. Here's another example they'll have to be able to do, is to take the words and can they replace that with a number sentence. So 4 times as many as 3 is equals 12. Okay, and then here's one last example. 12 is 4 times as many as 3. Okay, sometimes what students will do is they'll see this times here and they'll write 12 times 4 and then just put equals 3, which doesn't make sense, but it also doesn't match this order. It's 12 is, that means our total value, our product value is going to come first. It's basically just flip-flopping that order again. That's a sort of a new thing for them to see. So we want to make sure we don't just throw 12, 4, and 3 and put a times and an equals in there. We want it to make sense. So this is not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're seeing that backwards or flip-flopped. Okay, so thank you for taking time to watch. You can like and comment the video, and next week we'll be back with more examples of multiplicative comparisons that use division and inverse operations of multiplication.